NASCAR fans, warmer weather, roaring engines, and victory lane vibes. It must be NASCAR season. Picture this: you've had an adrenaline packed day at the track, now you're kicked back by the pool, soaking up the sun, and you're looking to sip something that hits just right. Meet the Ounce of Hope's 5 milligram THC seltzer, a refreshing alcohol free way to unwind with a light buzz and zero hangover. At just $5 for a 16-ounce can, it's the only THC seltzer of its kind on the market and the best deal you'll find. Cheaper than a cocktail at your favorite pit stop. Whether you're winding down after the race day or vibing on a breezy summer night, choose from 4 delicious flavors: peach, cherry, lime, or berry. Ounce of Hope is the trusted cannabis company in Memphis and in all of Tennessee. Ounce of Hope ships federally legal THC and CBD products nationwide and also offers a variety of edibles like mushroom gummies, chocolates, and Rice Krispie treats, plus topicals and oils, all grown and crafted in Memphis, Tennessee for quality you can trust. So, if you're over 21, ready to elevate your race weekend or any weekend, check out ounceofhope.com and use promo code VICTORY for 20% off your first purchase. That's ounceofhope.com, promo code VICTORY for 20% off.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chicanery. We are your hosts. I am Danny, and of course, I'm joined by JT.
Hello again.
And so, this episode, a bit of a sports car catch up, if you will. Got a handful of races, kind of some news stuff, some drama, because what is any fucking series without drama, apparently, anymore. To kind of get through. And so yeah, just generally sit and chat about. And this episode is being recorded kind of back to back with Indy 500 recap. Once again, not at home, don't have my mic, audio's kind of shit. I'm sorry, deal with it. Will be all good and dandy for recording Detroit and whatever else that ends up being between now and then. So sorry. But with that being said, we'll jump into it. But more after this message. By now, I'm sure you, our dear listeners, are all very familiar with Home Field Apparel. They're the purveyors of some excellent collegiate apparel. The boys over on the main pod always go nuts for their football and basketball drops. But Home Field is also a longtime supporter of this podcast. Last year, Home Field launched their first season of Speed with Hendrick, Little 500, Arrow McLaren, and Indy 500 collections, with the Indy 500 collection being a particular favorite of mine. Well, they're back for another year of Season of Speed with a new Hendrick Motorsports collection, with neat Rainbow Warriors, Jeff Gordon, and City Chevrolet merch, and a 3-car collection devoted to Raising Hell and Praising Dale, both of which are already available. Now, with the obligatory joke out of the way, there's also a new Little 500 and Indianapolis Motor Speedway collection for all of those who celebrate the month of May. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com and be sure to use code VLV25 to save 15% off of your first order. and the spa entry list was announced here. So we have well, there quite a lot. I mean, it's spa, 24-hour spa. There are always a bunch of folks uh going. Any particular teams that sort of were interested in looking out for blah blah blah?
I mean, at least as far as it goes for like my main rep is probably gonna be WRT, and at least I think it's Matt, like Cam Jam, like they're back in the same car, which I think they were back in the same car last year for last year's spa, so I'll probably be looking at them too. But other than that, those are probably like my main teams, people that I'm keeping an eye on. I don't know about you though.
Um, for me, looking at WRT, I always kind of pay attention to them, somewhat kind of by proxy of you. Of course, I'm actually super interested, mostly because I've not been paying like fuck all attention. But Verstappen's GT team is of some interest to me. So I'll be interested to see how they do. Um, but yeah, those are kind of the ones for me that I'm kind of keeping an eye out. But the wild bit is that, I mean, of course, these big marquee races are always have a shitload of cars. That's kind of a thing, but it's like 76 cars for Spa. That's going to be wild, and I cannot wait.
I'm sure like turn one going into the first turn, like Eau Rouge just might be a bloodbath, unfortunately, lap one.
I would be shocked if it wasn't, honestly. Um, but funny segueing on from Verstappen's GT team, he himself just fucking unprompted showed up at the Nordschleife with Emil Fry racing, which is in a 296, which is funny. If you go way back, I remember when they used to run the Jaguars, particularly the XKR GT3s, which those cars were fucking dog shit, but they looked cool and they sounded great. But he did so under a pseudonym for reasons unclear to me. It was Franz Hermann, which again, why? Because I mean, a German name, because I mean, he's at the Nordschleife, but like also he's Dutch. So I don't know. I feel like there's some multi-layered, multicultural joke in there that I just don't understand. Um, but also he did all of that just to have the giant fucking Verstappen lion on his helmet. So like, eh? It reminds me of when it makes me think of when Alain Prost, when he was testing Ligier in, what was that, 92, 93, and he borrowed, was it Ivan Capelli's helmet, I think, to try to fly under the radar, and everybody was like, it's fucking Alain Prost, what the fuck? This kind of reminds me of that. But at any rate, he did a couple laps and fucked off. Apparently he set a new lap record. It was like a 7:48 or something. Because it's worth noting that these series, it uses both the Nordschleife plus the GT, the GP, sorry, circuit. So for kind of the quotes full lap, but it's being hotly contested by like fucking everybody. Because there's no real word on BOP. This sparked a bit of, again, some Twitter drama with him and Maro Engel about what the actual specs of the car were. Morrow said that it was a DTM spec car because Emil Fry campaigns in DTM. Verstappen suggested otherwise. I'm not sure how much I believe that, if I'm being perfectly honest, but whatever. But yeah, as per usual, a bunch of F1 fans with zero concept of the world outside of F1 decided that this was a perfect opportunity to pounce. Even though, frankly, they're all dumb as shit. And actually thought that their ignorance of other series was like an asset in this discussion, but I don't fucking know. It is just a mess, suffice it to say. But yeah, I don't know. Do you know, I know you kind of watch a lot of the social media stuff more closely than I do. Was there ever anything particularly conclusive about what exactly the spec of this car was?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I guess like because Verstappen like said something like in his response to like Moral Angle. I forgot exactly what it was he said, but I don't know. He was basically just saying how like it wasn't what he said wasn't correct. So I don't know. I have no idea. And to be honest, I feel like it kind of doesn't matter because like I mean, it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, you're gonna have F1 fans being like, "Oh, he just showed up and set a like lap record," but it's like I don't know. I'm sure people set lap records like most of the time, but like it probably doesn't mean that much. Probably doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I mean, and it's worth noting that, especially in, the Nürburgring races, depending on like what traffic is like, can influence what your lap time is by, 15, 20 seconds. Um, for folks who are curious about that, particularly with practice and quali, I would actually genuinely recommend watching the short-ish videos of race weekends that like Jimmy Broadbent puts together for when they run in GT4. Um, talking about with him, Steve Brown, Misha Sharudin, and oh my gosh, I can't remember what their fourth driver. His name's I'm escaping me at the moment. I think it's Max Bower, I think. But at any rate, but it's like I said, it's so your lap time at the doing any sort of Nürburgring racing is so traffic dependent. That you could have somebody in something completely uncorked and they could still run slower because they got fucked by traffic. So this point is that it was again kind of a back and forth dick measuring shitstorm that doesn't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know. Um but yeah, certainly something interesting. $10 says that Max does moves to sports cars when he inevitably gets fed up with F1. But at any rate, um, talking about shitstorms, you and I have talked about this quite a bit off and on. Well, off and on for kind of a while now, but it looks like it might finally be potentially coming true. Um, with BMW evaluating, basically telling RLL to go fuck themselves in IMSA, um, which about fucking time, frankly. But then, see, here becomes the real question: does BMW pick somebody better or worse than RLL?
I mean, is it possible to get worse than RLL? I feel like RLL is already kind of like bottom of the barrel, but I don't know. I mean,
I
from
guess.
the teams that they were saying that like I'd seen, I think there was like Chip Ganassi was possible, Pratt Miller was possible. So like I don't necessarily think those teams are worse than RL, but
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you take particularly Chip Ganassi and Pratt Miller, because I mean, it's actually kind of easy because both have worked under kind of the GM fold. Of course, Pratt Miller with Corvette, Chip Ganassi with Cadillac prototypes of varying descriptions. They've actually been quite successful. But it's interesting talking about Pratt Miller because they have their hands quite full at the moment. They have the Corvettes, the factory Corvette program, and then they have LMP2 as well. Does Pratt Miller, do they really have the overhead to then run a GTP entry in addition to all of those?
Probably not.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I would imagine that one would have to go. I would imagine it'd probably be the LMP2 entry. Simply because that's not really something that they've been doing. I mean, I don't really need to tell anybody listening to this how successful Pratt Miller and Corvette have been over the last 25 almost years. So it would seem wild for me to them to drop that. But yeah. And then because Chip Ganassi, they're not actively doing anything in IMSA at the moment, if I recall correctly, because they're not running a prototype.
No, they're not doing anything since the yellow Cadillac is gone.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I'm like, they could, step back in. But I guess, does Chip Ganassi want to do that? I guess is the question.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, Chip.
All of this is like speculative too. Like,
yeah,
nothing's confirmed, but I don't know. Because for all intents and purposes, like this could end up not even happening, and we're still back with RLL for another season.
That's honestly what I anticipate is the most likely outcome from all of this. Is that there'll just be no change because again, Pratt Miller has their hands full, and I don't know what the fuck is going on with Chip Ganassi and their racing operations these days. So when you think about general availability, just kind of staying put makes the most sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, what is Iron Lynx up to these days?
They're with Mercedes.
Yeah, actually, that's good point. So
because they technically they withdrew from like the Lamborghini like GTP program, and it's like enough like that program speaks for itself in a bad way, but so I don't think they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So no, there's not really a good solution here. So yeah, honestly, staying put and maybe just putting the fear of God into RLL to get their shit together honestly probably makes the most sense, all things considered. But that being said, I do understand why BMW seems some of this murmuring would say that they want out from RLL. But yeah, but it's like, where the fuck do they go? But yeah. Moving on. This is a fun one. Is that of course there has been much hay that's been made about the FIA and the swearing penalties, and about their draconian, dumb, basically insert a negative adjective or adverb, and then chances are it has been applied when describing the swearing ban, basically. Well, our benevolent Lord and Savior Mohammed bin Salem has listened to our cries and has decided to make some adjustments. So the base penalty has gone from 10,000 euros to about 5,000, so cuts it in half. However, for various FIA sanctioned world championships, there are where there are multipliers involved. Apparently, the reductions will be more significant. It is still a nominally higher figure, but from a percentage standpoint, that it goes down more, if that makes sense. So there's that. Stewards will now have the option to suspend a penalty for certain types of breaches, provided it's basically it's a first offense sort of thing, which is weird. I thought they did that already, but maybe not. And then following approval via apparently a virtual vote from the World Motorsports Council, which again, I didn't know that they did that either, but I mean, it's 2025, so I guess they would. The amended Appendix B will allow stewards to differentiate between controlled and non-controlled environments, which recognizes basically the language and how that's going to be used in different places. Controlled environments would be like press conferences, while uncontrolled environment would be like would refer to spontaneous comments made during basically on track or like what have you. So kind of in the heat of battle, quote unquote. Which again, given the fact that radio communications, at least in F1, are censored already, would imply that there's already some pre-existing differentiation there. So whatever. So there will be mitigating circumstances, which will continue to be with additional guidance available to try to promote consistency and fairness amongst this amended Appendix B. And abuse of officials will now result in sporting penalties rather than fines, which aligns with basically every other fucking sports league known to man does this like this. So congratulations, you guys finally figured this out. Racial and various discriminatory comments will continue to be addressed firmly, except for when they're not, because there's already, even under the old rules, or I guess the first rule set, there's already been some stuff that's gone completely unnoticed by the FIA for reasons unclear to me, particularly Max Verstappen's comments about Lance Stroll once. So I'm going to hold my tongue here, and I'm going to let you have the floor as if like any of this is any good or not, because oh boy, I have some thoughts, but I could talk for an hour, so I'll let you go.
I mean, I don't really have any particular thoughts about it. I just thought it was interesting that they made adjustments to it. So it's like maybe they listened to people, maybe they didn't. I don't know. I still think it's dumb to like fine people for swearing. Again, I do think, if people are saying like slurs or some shit, then yeah, you need to penalize them for that, like I said before. But other than that, I don't know. I feel like time will tell whether or not these adjustments actually make a difference, or they didn't make a difference, or like everything's still the same and they would have been better off doing nothing. Who knows?
Yeah, this is fucking stupid. I hate this. I hate this so much. Because again, it's like there's already, especially looking at, what this new differentiation with, pardon me, controlled and uncontrolled environments. It's like, we already fucking have this. Like, why did we need to make changes in the first place, and then changes that needed to be amended later? I don't get it at all. some of this, I mean, to be fair, I think some of this is, are good changes. And again, like the idea that, like allowing stewards to suspend a penalty. So this gives them a little bit more broader remit. And I actually do think that that's good. It allows for, in theory, a little bit more discretion, just generally. But it's just, all of this just feels like change for the fucking sake of change. It's like, this was something that absolutely did not need to be an issue, and it has been turned into an issue. And now we, in the, basically in the sporting code, we now have basically doubled the length of the sporting code just for this fucking one thing. And it's just like, I don't, like I said, I don't know why this needed to be a thing, because it just does not need to be a thing. And it is very frustrating that it's been turned into one by the FIA. So, I mean, are they good improvements? Technically, yes. But it's just all so superfluous that just purely on a matter of principle, I fucking hate it anyway. But ugh. But at any rate, moving on before I give myself an aneurysm. Apparently Wayne Taylor Racing is considering two-handing WEC and IMSA. This seems like a fucking stupid idea to me, but what do you think?
I mean, I think it's stupid as well, because they're not doing particularly well in IMSA, and I don't really know what the point would be to like split, like have run one car in IMSA, run one car in WEC. Like technically you decrease your odds of winning if you're splitting two series like that, but what do I know?
Yeah, this seems so silly to me to sit here and try and do that. It's like, I thought we had already figured out that trying to do both was not a particularly great idea. But again, apparently we're fucking goofballs. So, but at any rate, let's move on here. So we're gonna we'll start getting into races, but we're gonna have Bop It, except slightly different this time. Speaking of which, I can't tell you how much I love the fucking wordplay with that with Bop It. That's so good. I don't know if I've ever told you that before, but I love it. At any rate, but there's been a lot of chatter about BOP, both in IMSA and WEC, amongst kind of hypercar, GTP, LM, fucking whatever. Yeah, basically, people think it's shit this year, even though both series have tried to kind of streamline BOP. Like, so like in WEC, Ferrari just fucks off like every single race. It just doesn't seem to matter. The Ferrari is OP as shit, and then subsequently the Toyota is just fucking useless. And then in IMSA, Porsche and BMW are in a completely different postcode relative to Acura and Cadillac. And if BMW operationally could get their shit together, they would be fucking unbeatable. But that's a different thing. That's like a BOP in and of itself. Just be have the operations of BMW. There's, again, we talked about it in the IndyCar thing. There's been lots of tinfoil hats about BOP. Again, I don't think it's I think it's vastly more simple. Just a handful of people have just fucked up at their jobs. It's funny is that, I know drivers aren't allowed to criticize, at least publicly, criticize BOP, which is a fucking hilarious thing, by the way. But it's just, I guess the question here is just, what the fuck happened?
I guess somebody got it very wrong. I mean, again, I guess you could say the performance is not balanced, but I don't know. It's just not great. I mean, drivers can't talk about it, but I mean, we can. We don't have any NBAs or whatever the fuck it is that they tell drivers that they can't criticize it for whatever reason. But I don't know. It's just not great. I don't know. It's just very odd because I thought it would have been at least okay, considering again WEC and IMSA called themselves streamlining it against like for the two series. So I'm like, yeah, maybe it should be the same, somewhat similar, but it's just not. Like I don't know, just somebody, some group of people just missed the mark entirely.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of nuts, honestly, that it's this bad. The only time I can think of really was in again we're gonna throw it back here a bit, but was in GT1. And not 90s GT1, but 2000s GT1 with like the Ferrari, the 575, the Corvette, the Ford GTs, the Aston Martins, was when, particularly in American Le Mans series, when basically the Corvettes were so dominant, even despite the fact that was allegedly BOP, Corvettes were just so fast that basically everybody rage quit GT1 because they're like, okay, what's the fucking point if the Corvette's just gonna come up and clean house every week or every race rather? It's like you know, Pro Drive and Aston Martin tried and had some modicum of success, but even they felt like they were fighting a losing battle and they quit. They quit midway through the season, actually. I think that was in 2008. And that would end up basically the Corvettes would be in a class of, you know, 2 functionally for the rest of the year before we got the GT2 regulations. But that's kind of what this reminds me of. It's like you have, you know, in both categories, you have, you know, a manufacturer or 2 that are just so dominant over everybody else. And it's like, okay, well, what the fuck is the point? And then it's like my question is with Ford, McLaren, and Genesis coming, is it going to get better? Or are throwing 3 new chassis into it only going to make it worse?
I mean, if it doesn't change it, then I guess maybe you could maybe be a little bit reactionary and say that oh the BOP is what will ultimately be the death knell for the LMH LMDH class, the golden age of sports car racing. But I don't know. I don't know if I can say that quite yet because technically, like I guess this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but IMSA did say I think that they went in and manually adjusted the BOP for Detroit. So like I feel like if we come out of this race weekend, the Detroit race weekend, and there's no change, and come out of Le Mans on the other side, and there's still like kind of no change, and you have just Ferrari just basically just mops the floor with everybody like they did for the past 3 races, then maybe we need to have a bigger discussion. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, you know, IMSA saying they manually adjusted BOP for Detroit. Detroit is so fucking chaotic you wouldn't know one way or another if the BOP is any better. It's like a whole fucking house is on fire, and then you say, oh, well, you know, the broom closet, I put out the fire in there. Yeah, congratulations. I didn't fucking notice because everything else is still smoldering. It's one of those things where it's like, I will eat my hat if there is any, like, obviously discernible difference in Detroit, because if that is just a track that I don't think is conducive at the best of times to really noticing any big changes in sort of the kind of performance running order. It's, traditionally the Detroit race weekend is all about who can keep their nose clean
I
and not.
mean, we might have to wait until the Watkins Glen, the 6 hours of the Glen, to actually see if there's any change.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly on the IMSA side, absolutely. I think Le Mans is a better arbiter of BOP changes, but yeah, it's like, yeah, oh, we manually adjusted BOP for Detroit. Like, yeah, okay, thanks for absolutely nothing.
and then
So,
I don't know, like WEC is honestly their BOP adjustments from race to race, at least for me, have been at least this season have been kind of confusing. Like it kind of
mhm.
just doesn't make sense. Like you have like Toyota's always like the heaviest car for whatever fucking reason. I don't know why they do that. And then Ferrari usually gets like minimal BOP changes. Like even like I really suspect like I thought, okay, which I guess if we live in a perfect world, maybe we wouldn't maybe even be talking about BOP, okay, which wouldn't be a fucking thing, I guess. But at the same time, I thought that after like Qatar, I was so certain that they would have seen that Ferrari getting like a whole front row lockout, um, all cars finishing 1, 2, and 3, that they would have been hit with like crazy BOP. Like they would have been added on, like they would have been like at least the heaviest or the second heaviest car, and they would have been reduced on their power. But that didn't really happen, and it didn't really happen at Imola either. So I'm like, okay, what like it's like what's the point?
And that was the thing. I mean, I remember when we sat down to record, we had kind of talked about that. We were like, what the fuck is going on here? Because I was, kind of doing my thing and nerding out over the BOP chart and going, well, wait a minute. It's like they made like 0 adjustments to the Ferrari post Qatar. And but yes, the Toyota another, 10 kilos, or I think it was like 12. If I remember correctly. It's just like, I okay, sure, I guess. Um yeah, I don't understand it like at all.
I'm also curious to know to understand what exactly goes on with Porsche Penske and why like WEC they're like seemingly like fucking nowhere. They're always like mid pack, uh at best, maybe like fifth or so, but they're just like midfield. They're like midfielders in WEC, and then IMSA they just completely blitz everybody. It's like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. I would say maybe because the field is deeper, but you have the French Village idiots that don't really amount to much in WEC. So honestly, not
I
really.
mean, literally, like you have Peugeot's just like a filler team. Um, the Proton Porsche might as well just be like filler. I mean,
Okay.
Alpine is improved. I wouldn't say they're like filler, you know, anymore. Like they certainly were last season, but like this
Mhm.
season they've improved. But it's like I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I don't either. I don't understand it. Um, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it is. It's very interesting, and I mean, and to be fair, um, really, if BMW just stopped tripping over their own cocks, then certainly in IMSA they would be able to be. Porsche Penske would have more of a fight on its hands. 'Cause, I mean,
I
we've
mean,
talked.
at this rate, I feel like the Porsche BMW championship fight
Hmm.
is just not gonna happen, unfortunately. Like after if they come away with a win at Detroit, then I'm just gonna say it's over. Like the championship is over. The championship fight is over.
Yeah, because I mean, that's really the thing is that the BMW is fast. I mean, we've been talking about this all year. The BMW is genuinely is quick, but just operationally, um, is that, particularly on the IMSA side is just such a mess that it's like they have absolutely given up a couple what should have been otherwise surefire wins just because apparently nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. So I think that that's, certainly a big part of it. And, Acura and Cadillac are just kind of off doing, God knows what. And the Aston Martin isn't particularly quick either at the moment.
It's kind of shocking to see Acura and Cadillac be in the state that they are, given that in previous years they've been pretty quick, and then all of a sudden there's just like this huge drop off in pace like this year. It's just like, what happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, you go back to the DPI era, Cadillac and Acura were the big fish. Mazda eventually got their heads out of their asses, but right in time to can the program. So, yeah, but it was Cadillac versus Acura was kind of the fight. So yeah, it is. It's wild to think that yes, those two teams have become minnows now in the GTP era. But I guess, here's, the real bit, kind of talking about, what went wrong. But I guess let's say, you are responsible for BOP, IMSA, WEC, both, if you're feeling so inclined. How do you fix it?
I mean, the first thing I would do, okay, I'm giving Ferrari the worst BOP. Okay, that is first things first. Ferrari is going to be the heaviest car. They are going to have the least amount of power. That is literally what I would do. Okay, and I would literally just like do like one thing that I've always wondered what would happen is if you just like gave like the worst team in the field, like the most favorable BOP, and then basically nerfed everybody else. I'd basically just do that for like Ferrari. Okay, I'd Aston Martin technically I think already has like the best BOP, but it kind of doesn't matter because the car just doesn't have fucking pace. But I would just like give everybody a BOP boost and then nerf Ferrari just for the fuck of it and see what happened. And then IMSA I'd kind of do the same thing. I would nerf both Porsche and BMW for sure, and then give Acura and Cadillac a boost, even though I'm pretty sure that's what IMSA called themselves doing for Detroit. So I don't know. We'll see if that works. Again, it's going to be hard to tell, like you said, because Detroit is usually, at least with this new circuit, as opposed to Belle Isle, it's pretty much just a shit show. And the name of the game is just staying out of trouble, keeping your car out of the wall, not getting caught up in any type of Long Beach-esque pileups in any parts of the circuit, which is very difficult at this track. So it's going to be kind of hard to tell if their BOP change actually does anything or not, because you could easily have, the worst teams in the field, like which are currently like Acura and Cadillac, they could easily get a win if Porsche and BMW either junk both their cars somehow or they completely fumble strategy, because that happened last year. It was Porsche Penske who was in contention to win, and they fumbled strategy. And really, then again, in that situation, it should have been BMW to be the one to pick that up, but they didn't. And it ended up being like Wayne Taylor Racing and the Acuras that got the win in the end. So, like, if something like that happens, yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to tell if there's any type of changes.
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely. It's tough. If I were doing this, I would almost, and I know it's difficult to do this. I would almost be tempted to just kind of hit, like I would hit the reset button, basically, kind of factory reset on everybody, see what the rough competitive order in which shakes out to be, and then kind of make adjustments from there to try to keep it, close. And also, and I don't know if they do this already with BOP because again, nobody fucking talks about it. It's like one of those just weird things that it's just like this is a thing that we all kind of know exists, but everybody to some degree kind of refuses to acknowledge, which maybe that's part of the problem. But it's one of those things like in theory, you can draw on data from that race, last year, and then take that plus, general performance in the current year to kind of go, okay, I'm thinking you're gonna be quick here, so we're just gonna, more restrictor, more ballast, and kind of go from there. So it's like, I understand the function that BOP is intended to serve. I just don't understand why we seem to have these brouhahas where they just fuck it up so badly. I mean, remember Porsche and the GTs from just a few years ago, where you had people jumping ship from Porsche just because the BOP was so trash. That's part of how FAF have like royally fucked themselves over, is jumping from Porsche. So I don't get it. I guess it's a whole lot of words to say.
I mean, either way, we're not in charge of it, so it's somebody else's mess to clean up.
Yeah, which is definitely I wouldn't want to be responsible for that. So um but at any rate, we will now finally be moving on to the 6 hours of spa. So first, for practice, lots of crashes. The 51 Ferrari binned it at Eau Rouge, as did the Iron Lynx Mercedes, and then the Valkyrie binned it elsewhere. I think it was at Blanchimont. Um, but yeah, so it was a messy practice. But was the final, well, we'll talk about this here a little bit later, but good race or not?
I would say Spa was like, compared to the other races in the season, in the WEC season, it was good compared to those races because you had Qatar, you had Imola, which were just meh, in my opinion. I mean, Imola had some good moments, I'm not gonna lie, but overall, not that great. Nothing to really brag about. So Spa was like a step up, I would say, despite the BOP still being bad.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I was thinking, is that, relative to kind of where we've been this season, um, Spa felt like a breath of fresh air, really. Um, on its own merits, I struggle a little bit more adjudicating that. But I would say still probably yes, but it's so difficult just to not be colored by Imola and Qatar.
I mean,
Um,
compared to last year's Spa, it was worse. It wasn't
yeah,
as good as last year's Spa, but compared to all the other races this season, it was good.
yep, I would agree with that. Because it's worth noting that we definitely saw some more cars kind of in the mix, like the number 20 BMW, at least until that car had some brake issues. Now, again, I referenced the French Village idiots earlier when talking about particularly the WEC field, and they did what they did. And, Peugeot completely botched strategy, and doing so with the CEO in attendance is like that's impressive. To fuck that up in front of Big Boss.
I mean, if this is the race that finally gets this program like jettisoned into the sun, I think it'd be kind of funny, but not surprising.
Yeah, yeah, we'll say kind of stay tuned for maybe you know what I think it'll be? I think if they fuck it up at Le Mans, I think that could potentially be it. Um and we've talked about it time and time again. I have a real soft spot for the 9X8. I think as a concept, I think it's a very cool car, especially the early wingless version. But this program has been nothing short of a disaster, quite frankly, because they have been doing hypercar shit for the longest out of every participating manufacturer, if my memory serves. And yet nothing to show for it. So I don't know. Next
I
up
mean,
on
Toyota's been in, I think, the longest, maybe. I don't know. Because I think they were still around even after, like, Porsche and Audi, like, fucked off from, like, LMP1, and they still, like, stayed, which it kind of paid off for them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, my brain, kind of the LMP into hypercar transition. So yeah, that's fair. Although it's worth noting that at least early on, it was kind of a tweaked LMP car as opposed to a kind of a ground up design. So, but yeah, that's fair. But honestly, imagine if Audi were here. That would be great. But that's me wishing for absolutely nothing. So let's not even go down that road. But at any rate, and to come stateside for IMSA at Laguna Seca, the number 24 BMW would take GTP pole again. They have taken pole at every race this year, actually. And so now, again, this has very much been an episode of conversations. So we're going to have another one. BMW, and particularly their qualifying pace. You have, in parentheses, quali merchants. But I wanna break that down just a little bit. Is it truly what are we seeing here? Is it just, one lap pace is there? Is it that the car fucking sucks over a longer run? Is it operational issues? Is it some combination thereof? What is it? Because we have had, BMW is literally, this car is 0 for 4 in converting a pole to a win.
I'm gonna say it's both operational issues, okay, and like the car kind of sucks over long runs. I'm gonna be honest because I don't know, Laguna Seca might not really have been the track to to assess that just because it was a short race. Okay, but like at least like Le Mans Sebring probably, or not Le Mans, but Daytona and Sebring might have been better races to like assess that. And I would say the car is not that great on like beginning of the stint. The car is fine, it has speed, but then like as the stint goes on, the pace just kind of usually falls off, at least from like at least from what I saw at Daytona. I felt like it kind of fell off, at least like during like the early morning hours. I think it was Kevin Magnussen, he was doing a stint, and then like towards the beginning of the stint, it was fine. Like the pace was fine, the car was fine, and then gradually it seemed like he just started dropping back. I feel like it's the same thing. And then the sister car just is even like more like all over the place for whatever reason. I don't know what the problem is with their setup or what they're doing with their setup, but I feel like the sister car will just like have very up and down days. Like some days the pace with the sister car is right up there with the 24 car. And then other days it's just not. And Laguna Seca was one of those race weekends or days where the 25 car, the sister car, was just like nowhere, just straight up didn't have the pace, which is kind of odd to see one car have a lot of pace and one not. So I feel like it's some type of setup thing. And then the other part of it, operational, I definitely feel like that's what it is, because okay, you had at Daytona, you had the crazy ass thing where Dries like pulled into the pit stop, the pit lane thing, the pit box at like this crazy ass angle, and they couldn't actually service the car properly. You have people getting penalties for God knows what. Okay, like them getting that penalty for like improper wave by procedures at Daytona, which is like, I'm not sure how you do that. Okay, you have where, again, probably more operational stuff. Even last year, they were like fumbling strategies with trying to do like failed overcuts or undercuts. Obviously, they fail, they don't work. That happened at Daytona last year, happened at Long Beach, where they tried to do one car, they pit one car first, and then tried to keep the other car out, the 25 car out, and then that didn't work. Okay, so you have strategy fumbles. A lot of times they do that. So you just combine all of that, and then I feel like that's why you honestly get what you get with this program.
And I think that's a pretty fair assessment, honestly. There's actually not really a whole lot that I have to add to that. But yeah, it's just, but the end result, I mean, is that, yeah, it's just, like I said, the 24 BMW particularly, is super quick and quality. Like I said, it is 4 for 4 in, events to polls, but it is fucking 0 for 4 in actually converting those into meaningful results, which is bananas when you think about that a little bit. But at any rate, with that all being said, Laguna, good race or not?
I mean, it was okay. Like same with Long Beach. It was all right. It
Yeah,
was all right.
yeah. Like I said, I agree. It was just kind of and yes, we would end up with another Porsche Penske win. Can they be stopped? Probably not. But and we would, certainly one of the more interesting bits is, you had Dries Vantour trying to, basically just fucking yeet it up the inside on basically last corner, the last lap to try to get something. But just ended up in the gravel. But that being said, walked away with a podium. So that's something. But yeah, but no, just a couple of kind of races. But I mean, we're gearing up for kind of the big shit in June. Because we've got Le Mans, we've got Nürburgring, 24 hours of Nürburgring as well, if I remember correctly. And actually, what is the date for Spa?
I think Spa's like the last 24-hour
Yeah,
race to happen.
that's what I thought. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if I had gotten that the order of that right. But so what again kind of take the temperature of the room here. What are we thinking for any expectations, thoughts, feelings for the smattering of 24-hour races next month?
I mean, I honestly expect Ferrari to win at Le Mans, unfortunately, because they've done well in every single race, and they usually do well at Le Mans too. So it's like, unless something like catastrophic happens to them, they probably will win it. But I would like to see BMW be competitive. Okay, I know that might be asking for a lot, but I feel like a podium could be achievable. Okay, I think they could come away with a podium, barring they're able to keep it together and stay out of trouble. I feel like a podium is definitely achievable. They could definitely walk away with the podium. Okay, it would be a huge improvement from last year, because last year was just awful, completely torrid for BMW at Le Mans. So hopefully everything goes well. Like Le Mans is probably the only race that I'm like a bit worried about how they do, just because they have the prototype there. All the other 24-hour races, they're GT cars, and the GT cars we all know are just like lightning fast. Okay, so there's really not going to be any problems there.
Yeah, generally kind of same boat. I'm watching this because I am hugely interested to see how the Valkyrie gets on at Le Mans. I mean,
My guess is it's not going to make it. The car is not going to make it the whole 24 hours.
I'm thinking I'm thinking you're probably right.
I mean, Qatar was 10 hours and one car didn't. That was already really struggling for just making it 10 hours. So, and that's not even half of Le Mans. Okay.
No.
So I think it's going to be unfortunately kind of rough for them.
Yeah, but I'm still curious to see what happens. I would be, hugely interested to see what goes on there. I'm actually very curious because Cadillac is flooding Le Mans with the V Series Rs. So it's like, okay, can one of you manage something vaguely decent? Because isn't
Again,
it?
they just have to keep it together. They just have to not do stupid shit.
Yeah, which with that team, that's easier said than done with those folks. Because isn't it 4 cars at
So I
Le
think
Mans?
it's the two Jota cars. It's I think the Action Express racing car, and then you have I think Wayne Taylor is fielding an entry.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. So yeah, so it's 4 of these fucking things. So it's like, okay, surely one of you should pull something out of this. So yeah, super interested to see. Also, I'll be interested to see how TF Sport gets on with the Corvettes. Because Pratt Miller is not going to be there, but TF Sport will. So, well, I'll be interested to see because, of course, TF Sport, or sorry, Pratt Miller, Corvettes and Le Mans are been a pretty strong combination in years past. So, I'll be interested to see what goes on there. But as for Spa and Nordschleife, Nürburgring.
I mean, I would hope to see at least more racing at Nürburgring, okay, than last year with the fucking fog that
Yeah.
came, and there was only like 9 hours of racing total, I think. So hopefully we get more racing this year. And then Spa, I don't know. I feel like BMW might end up doing what they did at Bathurst because I think like there's like what I think WRT is fielding like 5 cars at Spa, which is like a lot. It's a lot of cars for one team. So I'm like, if they don't walk away with something, I'd be shocked if they didn't walk away with something.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, the big thing is, certainly with the Nürburgring race. So, yeah, I would love to get a full race in this year. That would be super duper cool. Because the fog nuked that one. And then for Spa, like I said, I'm super interested. I know we talked about this kind of at the top, but I am super interested in Verstappen and his team to see how they get on. Genuinely very, very interested. So that is my one to kind of have a look at. But yeah, it's gonna be kind of a wild it's gonna be a wild month of racing because beyond that you've got I know technically it kind of straddles the month, but you've got Detroit this weekend, which is super duper fun and kind of always kicks things off for me. So yeah, I'm hyped. This is like the fucking June is like the greatest month of the year, and not only because it's my birthday in the month of June, but at any rate, any while I'm sitting here being an idiot, any sage thoughts before we close?
I don't think so.
Well, then, that has been yet another episode of Chicanery. We are your hosts. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, everybody.